There's a lot of internet businesses out there that are having some challenges
Yeah.
and they are really struggling and they're looking for the solutions in all the wrong places. You and I have been chatting about some of the things that you've been working on with your clients and what you've been seeing. And so we're really going to dive into today exactly how internet businesses can increase the number of customers they're generating, generate more cash, and really scale through the real method of growing an internet business.
Yeah, absolutely. This is where the rubber kind of meets the road in this game. As everybody knows, I got my start in this business by working with Gary Halbert, and he was a huge advocate of this concept and this idea of Operation Money Suck, which could be defined in a number of different ways depending on your education with Gary. But my education with Gary, the definition of it was extracting as much money as humanly possible from every element, every aspect, every touch point in your business. And over the years, I've definitely grown to appreciate just how much profit and how much money there is on the back end, and how by extracting that money in a very intelligent and sophisticated and awesome way, how that can just put your growth, not only your profitability, but essentially your front end customer acquisition on steroids. So this is going to be a really cool chat.
Absolutely. I'm really excited for it. And you've been traumatized by the news lately. I know there's a lot going on in the news today and in all kinds of headlines. And the headline that caught your attention, of course,
Skype.
was the expiration of Skype.
Exactly.
How that's,
Devastating news.
you are one of the last 8 users of
I'm one of the last of the Mohicans here. Yeah, we're using Skype. I love Skype. Skype has been good to me over the years. So I did a lot of business on Skype. So the fact that it's coming to an end is the end of an era for me.
and it actually dates you being one of the first pioneers on the internet. You found Skype and wouldn't let go.
Yeah, I know. We had a massive JV business at one stage, and all of our JV deals came through Skype. So a lot of money has flowed over through Skype over the years. So I'm actually very sorry to see it go. What bothers me terribly is like updating my operating system on my computer or things like that. Anything that like throws everything out of balance for me is a huge interruption. So Skype disappearing is a huge disruption for me. But we are, yeah, we'll figure it out.
Everybody who had Caleb O'Dowd be able to hit you up on Skype,
Yeah,
no
not
more.
anymore. Half of them, I won't be sorry to be. I won't be sorry to see them go. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. No, I'm kidding.
Well,
So
I've been very excited about diving into it. And in fact, what our topic today was actually the impetus for creating the book Monetization. And I know that we really build up to this point in this book, but today we're going to jump straight to it and talk about really what drives profit in internet businesses today. And really, a core missing piece that a lot of internet businesses struggle with and don't really understand that this is what's missing. And they go searching in lots of different places and they never find what's going to be able to make their big breakthrough in their business because they think this is something that doesn't apply to them.
yeah, when I was taught this game, the fundamental core principles of this game from Gary Halbert, he introduced me to direct mail. And as a result of being introduced to direct mail, I was introduced to a lot of real old school cigarette smoking, hardened direct response, direct mail guys. And they really had the fundamentals of this business down. And essentially, the way that the whole was taught to me is that if you take a page, draw a line down the middle, on the left, you have acquisition. That's everything got to do with acquiring a first-time customer. And then on the right is monetization. And that's everything got to do with generating more and more revenue and profit from the customers that you essentially acquire. The way it was explained to me is that there's no money in customer acquisition. In fact, if you are making money while acquiring a customer, you're doing it wrong. You're not playing the game the way the game is supposed to be played. The way that the game is supposed to be played, ideally, is that you either break even or take a 20% loss on the front end to acquire the most amount of customers for the monetization phase so that you can make the most quantity of profit on the back end. And that profit then gets used and leveraged in a variety of different ways. One of the most important ways in which that profit is leveraged is to increase the quantity of money that you can spend on the front end to acquire a customer. So if your competitors, for example, are able to acquire customers at $50, well, they can acquire so many customers at $50. Whereas if you could spend $100 to acquire customers, well, then you would acquire what they acquire plus X, that many more customers. So at the end of the day, the whole idea of this business is that whoever can afford to spend the most amount of money to acquire a customer wins. So really where all of the money is in the back end. It's in the monetizing of existing customers. And so many marketers on the internet, almost all of them, really, in my experience, well in excess of 90% of the business owners that I have come in contact with throughout my career really don't understand this. They're trying to make money on the front end. They're trying to generate enough profit to pay the bills, pay all the lifestyle costs, put the kids through college and the whole nine there. But the problem is that there is two inevitable realities that are facing internet business owners, and that is that the cost of traffic is always going up and conversion rates are always going down. So whatever your profit was, 12 months ago on the same ad spend, it's not the same profit margin today. If you even have a profit margin today, it's smaller. And that's because the cost of traffic is always increasing and conversion rates are coming down. So a lot of guys are really trying to fight that battle of, I got to increase my front end customer conversions to overcome the increase cost of traffic to acquire a customer and the decrease in conversions. But that's a losing game. If you can win that game, you at all, which is very, very, very difficult to win that game, it will be a very temporary win because it's like trying to push back waves on a beach. You're not going to win that game long term. The costs will always be increasing, conversion rates will always be decreasing, and it's just not a game that you can win. And this is why so many guys that are acquisition marketers, they find it so difficult, they find it so much of a struggle. And a lot of them these days in 2025 are going out of business in record numbers because the conversions are not there, the costs are so high. So the smart marketers are really the guys that focus on the monetization side of things. They're the ones that build this back-end monetization machine so that there is so much profit on the back end that all they have to do to overcome the increase in traffic on the front end and the decrease in conversion rates on the front end is just increase how much money they're willing to spend to acquire a customer. And if an increase in traffic happens, and at this point in time, by the way, at this very, very moment, Facebook just did a huge overhaul of their system, and a lot of marketers, a tremendous amount of Facebook advertisers are seeing massive increases in CPMs right now. And a lot of those guys are out of business. A lot of them are hurt. They're out of business and they're scratching their heads trying to figure out how to get up past this. But the savvy guys, all the savvy guys would do is just add an extra offer or two, or if they're smart, three to the back end to increase their LTV, the lifetime value that each customer is worth. And all they got to do is just assign a little bit more of that profit on the back end to the front end, and it's business as usual for those guys. So that's really where the money is at, is focusing on the monetization side of things. And in my experience, with the guys that I deal with, well in excess of 90% plus of internet business owners are what I would call acquisition marketers. And what really should happen is they should really, once they have an offer that's generating customers on the front end, they should really put 80 to 90% of their focus on generating back-end profits, monetizing existing customers.
The vast majority of internet marketers out there, internet business owners, are good weather business owners, and they don't understand or have any idea what bad weather business is like.
Yeah.
Caleb, I applaud and appreciate that you're coming forward really with the answer to what a lot of people need today.
Yeah, you got to build a real business to survive. John Carlton, legendary copywriter, he's got a famous quote and he says, An ad is not a business. A funnel is not a business. A product is not a business. A business is when you have the ability to acquire a customer and you have a lengthy automated monetization strategy in place to introduce many, many more products and solutions to that customer over an extended period of time. That's a legit business. That's a business that's immune to an awful lot of problems. I learned a long time ago that money solves almost all problems in business. And it's the lack of a adequate amount of money that causes most of the problems in business. And the guys that have an automated, robust, lengthy monetization strategy in place are the ones that not only survive, but they thrive during all kind of conditions. Even if you lose an ad account, like there's just so many things that can go wrong in business. But if you have a lengthy monetization strategy in place, well, then all of this stuff is just a problem to be solved, a bump in the road, something to be dealt with, as opposed to a complete and utter wipeout disaster, which is what it is for anyone that's just really a customer acquisition marketer. And time again, if you look at anyone's business, if they just have one product, if they just have one funnel, if they just have one offer, it's a foregone conclusion. There is an egg timer on how long that business will last, if you can even call it a business. And by definition, it really is not. But if it's a foregone conclusion that if you're just dealing with one offer, one funnel, or even two or three, it's still not enough. You really, really on the way out. You just don't know it. You might be riding high on the hog for a little bit, but it's all coming to an end very, very shortly if you don't figure out how to monetize properly.
You got a chapter in here about how to set up the upsells, and that's a chapter that I've received quite a few emails from friends and think that I've actually shared that with a number of clients on how to structure that. And so it's absolutely insightful and something that I really want to go through in detail today. The other thing that is a real big fundamental misunderstanding is the pricing of these monetization offers. I talk to a lot of people that are like, oh, well, we monetize our customers. We have an annual renewal for their $150 per year subscription. And that's how we monetize our customers. Or we actually have, maybe they're selling something for $150 and they also have a store where they're selling some other products to these customers, and that those products might cost $70 here or $130 there. They take that $150 customer and their goal is to give them a few other offers, maybe to make them into a average order value from 150 up to maybe 220. When you think of monetization, you have a different idea in mind in terms of pricing based on your experience over the last several decades of doing this.
Yeah, if you are in a hot niche, there's a lot of competitors, there's a lot of buyers, there's a lot of money being turned over. You can rest assured that there's 10% of your buyers that are financially capable and willing to spend a significant amount of money in pursuit of whatever it is they're looking to accomplish from a solution. Anytime I get into a niche, I'm always looking for what is the 5,000, 10,000, 15, $20,000 upsell that I can promote, because I know that those sales are there. And I also know that if I can figure out an upsell product of that nature, that I can get a, you know, I can get a lot of sales, for that offer. And in doing so, radically transform the financial situation of, that business. Whether, like it's a small ticket offer on the front end, a book, a video, something. It doesn't matter if it's a small price thing. It doesn't matter if everybody, like in the health supplement space, everybody says the health supplement, the average order value is like 110, 120, sometimes $150. People are not aware that there's 10% of those people that, guess what? They're complete health fanatics. They buy infrared saunas for like dollars. You know, they buy all sorts of coaching, they buy all sorts of very expensive stuff. A lot of the times you get locked into this state of mind where you say, oh, my guys are just supplement guys. They just spend $150. They're not going to be interested in an infrared sauna for $15,000. You're wrong. They are. They're buying them. They're buying a lot of stuff. And it's your job to really figure out what is it that I can sell to these guys, to my customers, that, you know, is a high price solution. And anybody that thinks that my people don't buy expensive solutions, I would really invite you to think outside the box, because that's a very limited line of thinking, and it's massively hurting your business. Because believe me, if you can find something to sell for $5 to $10 or $20,000, the impact that that will have on your business will be astronomical. It won't be a small bump in ROI for you. It'll be massive. And it's the type of massive hit that can really reshape how quickly your business can grow on the front end, and also how much profit and personal income that you can extract from your business as the business owner. So anytime I'm working with a client or anytime I'm getting into a new niche, I really, really want to sit down as a, you know, first port of call and start to mastermind what is the $5 to $10 to $20,000 product that I could offer here, because I know that there's 10% of these buyers that would probably be interested in that if I can create a killer offer for it.
I spoke at a conference of newspaper publishers last week, and we're talking about this very topic. This was my agenda, was to help them think through, you know, they're selling newspaper subscriptions and they could easily be selling some more improved court information, maybe things that are happening at City Hall, maybe some things going on in real estate, and that they could have multiple publications that they could be offering for, I was suggesting $5,000. And even if they think that's impossible, maybe $500, which is still, you know, 10 or 20 times what the subscription to the newspaper it costs, but would have a tremendous impact if 5% of their subscribers bought something for $500 or $1,000. It completely changes the economics for the newspaper overall. Their average order value goes up substantially because of that. The other thing I've seen is in the homesteading niche, where these are homesteaders that are looking to do their own farming of their food. And yes, the vast majority of individuals within the homesteading niche are very price sensitive. And yet there is a vast business in the homesteading niche. One of their most profitable, generating 80 to 90% of the profit in their business, are solar generators that are 8,000. Now they've transitioned the business from selling homesteading to selling solar generators, because that has become so profitable that they don't need to sell the food and the homesteading as much anymore. They have figured out that the business has shifted into these, what used to be only on the back end. And once you change your mind about what your customers are willing to pay, it completely changes your entire business. And this is the biggest obstacle, is in your own mind as an internet business owner, understanding what your customers will buy and appreciating that right now that people have bought something for $100 or $200 from you are right now spending $10,000 on something that is related to what you sold them $100 for. And they could have bought it from you if you had only been willing to offer it. And they bought it from somebody else. And expanding your mind, yes, 90% will say no. 90% will tell you, oh, I don't have money for that. I could never pay that. But the 5 or 10% that are saying yes, that are buying from somebody else right now, could be buying from you if only you opened yourself up to that possibility and started doing the work necessary. Dan Kennedy taught it to me this way, was that the vast majority of business owners right now are sitting around in meetings trying to figure out how they can sell at lower prices to their customers. They're looking at their economics. They're looking at their pricing. They're trying to figure out where they can cut costs, where they can shave, where they can save money on their advertising, where they can create a sales page that will convert better so that they can cut the cost of their ads, cut the cost of their products, and sell at lower price. The smart business owners are figuring out, and they're in meetings right now, deciding how they can sell at a higher price. How can you sell at something 10 times your front end price? How can you sell something 20 that front end price? What could you create? What could you offer? What could you go get? What could you license? What could you private label that you could sell at 5, 10, 20 times what your customers are already buying? Those discussions are where the riches are.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so few people think along these lines. They just stay boxed in their thinking. So I would invite anyone who, is listening to this and has their own business, I would really invite you to really sit down and think, what could I sell for $5,000, $10,000, 15, 20,000? You should even play around with selling $100,000 solution there. There are always people that have money and appreciate the need to invest that money in better solutions or more impressive solutions. And as you just said there, Rob, a lot of the times this line of thinking can pivot your business into something that is infinitely more profitable for you than you ever imagined. And that has been the case time and time and time again for guys that have, decided to think along these lines. So I love that story of the generator becoming the primary business. It was a back end offer and just became the primary business from that point forward. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when my wife and I got married, we had a ton of credit card debt that we had each accumulated and brought into the marriage. And we owed more, like 3 times more, and credit card debt than we made in a year. And so that caused a lot of stress. And I picked up the book by Dale Carnegie, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And in that book, it has an exercise. And it says, well, if you need $100,000, well, then why don't you see what could you offer to 100 or 1,000 people that you could charge $100 for? And what could you sell for $1,000 that you could find 100 people to buy? And what you sell for $10,000, you could find 10 people to buy. And what could you sell for $25,000 that 4 people could buy? So even
That's awesome.
back then, that exercise of knowing that the numbers of customers change, but the price can increase, and pushing to do that exercise within your customers. If you've got 3,000 people on your email list, most people are thinking about, what could I sell them for the same price that I sold them the first time? And that's fine. I'm not suggesting that you do you not do that. But what could you sell at twice the price that half the list would buy? What can you sell at 10 times the price that only 10% of the list would buy? And having those thoughts too absolutely changes the game, because what you'll find and discover is that you have a pocket of much more responsive customers that are actually much more fun to work with, that are much more engaging, and that could really make your life more fulfilling if only you thought to offer them a product at much higher the price. And this is a mental obstacle that I have encountered hundreds of times over the last 8 years that I've been working with clients. Caleb, when you are talking to somebody, and I know this is something you actually revile and resist at all costs, is trying to convince somebody of anything, and you are really only looking for people who are ready to jump in and do business, and they're like, all right, boss, I got the product, I got the list, let's get ready to rock and roll. But to help me out, man, because as for some reason I love to be taking this punishment. What would you have to say to somebody who is sitting on 50,000 subscribers? They are currently selling a product for $150 a year, and they got 50,000 buyers at $150, and they are really focused on maybe generating some incremental sales for another 150 or a couple $100, but they haven't thought about bringing out something for 500, something for 1,000, something for $5,000. How can we help them expand their thinking so that they can unlock this in their own lives?
Yeah, to me, it's a survive or die situation. I know that that sounds pretty dramatic. Anyone that's been in this business for longer than a couple of years is going to realize that the game today is nowhere near as easy. It's nowhere near as profitable as what it was even a few years ago. And this is not something there's going to be an about turn here shortly. It's only going to get worse. And if you don't take affirmative action to resolve that, then you're going to get weeded out of existence. In the last 12 months in particular, we've arrived at a place where cold traffic advertising is just expensive. It's just hard. There's less people able to do it. The success rates are significantly lower. Failure rates are significantly higher. Profit margins are shrinking. It's becoming harder and harder to find people who can even pull off successful advertising campaigns for you, and it's not going to get any better. So you've got to fight this battle with monetization. That's the that's the tool for the job. That's the weapon for this battle. It's pretty black and white. It's survive or die, and I think in the last 12 months the game has really taken a significant turn that I think is putting an ever increasing quantity of business owners under an awful lot of pressure. So I really feel it's that you've got to do it or else you're in trouble.
And you've mentioned before that for a number of years, you were considered to be really the number one newspaper ad writer in direct response marketing. And that lots of people would come to you to fix their ads and generate converting offers. And even so, the way those ads worked and the reason those ads were ultimately profitable were because of the back-end sales that were being made through those advertising efforts. And so in order to get the title, the crown of the world's best direct response advertiser within that media, it's because you understood the triggers and you understood the copy and you understood the craft of generating an ad. And you also understood the monetization strategies that had to be in place in order to fully get the value out of the customers that you were generating through that media.
It just all boils down to the basics. It all boiled down to AOV. Our average order value was nearly twice what everybody else's AOV was. Our back-end monetization strategy was far superior to everybody else's. So we were just able to spend a lot more money and acquire a lot more customers at greater profits. And we were able to monetize those customers better than everybody else on the back end because no one was really doing it.
So it begins on page 173. There is over and over again a part that the real players talk about, which are your upsell strategies. And we talked a little bit about understanding what's next on our last episode and really planning for the back end when you're running the ad so that you find buyers that are going to convert on the ad. And then also what we're now transitioning into this time is the upsell strategy. And you have a very delightfully simple approach to identifying what needs to be part of these back-end upsells in order to choreograph them in a way that makes a lot of sense to the customers and, more importantly, maximizes conversion and revenue, while at the same time better serving those customers and giving them what they were ultimately looking for when they converted on the first place.
The key to getting people to upsell through an upsell path is to understand what is it that your prospect is trying to accomplish. Most marketers are so concerned with getting a sale that they miss what it is that their customer is ultimately trying to achieve. So if you have a very deep understanding of who your customer is and what it is that they're looking to achieve for themselves, the ultimate end result, then all you got to do is essentially kind of create this timeline. And it starts with where they are today. Where are they right now? And where do they ultimately want to be? What is the ultimate end result? And then what you need to do is draw a line between those two understandings, where they are today and where they ultimately, the end result that they're ultimately looking for, that experience, that end result experience that they're ultimately looking for, draw a line between those two, and then start to ask yourself what exactly needs to happen in order for them to get there, or what do they need to do in order to get there, or what are the junctions that they need to pass through, the doors that they need to pass through in order to get to that end result. What do they have to accomplish? And each one of those answers becomes a potential upsell solution in your journey. And I think in the book, the example that I gave is we had a campaign that was teaching people email marketing. And essentially, we were targeting people that were internet marketers. They wanted to build an email list. They wanted to generate a email marketing business for themselves. So we started off with what's the first step that they need on that journey? Well, the very first thing they need to know is they need to have the blueprint. They need to have the plan. They need to know what it is that I need to do in order to actually accomplish this goal. I need the roadmap. So we then went ahead and created a book. That was our lead-in product. That was the front-end product. It was a book that gave away the system, the strategy for essentially accomplishing this. The second thing that we determined that they ultimately needed is if you want to build an email list, you ultimately need an email capture funnel. And not just any capture funnel, but a capture funnel that essentially generates leads in a way that frames them to actually buy things. So then that's the first thing that they need. The second thing that they need is they need traffic. You can't build an email list if you don't have any traffic. So the second thing that they needed was traffic. The third thing is now that they have this email list, now that they are getting traffic, they're getting people onto their email list. Now they need to figure out how exactly do I, like send emails to people that actually generate sales for the products and services that we're offering. So all of these things are a necessary step. You actually cannot succeed without them. And then the final thing that they ultimately needed, because these people were coming at it, they were brand new, they didn't have any previous experience, is they needed a mentor. They needed someone that could take them under their wing and essentially show them how to go from where they are to ultimately where they want to be, answer all of their questions, overcome all of their problems so that they can just get the end result as fast as humanly possible. So that then became this complete solution. We mapped out this journey. We had this complete understanding of what it is that they wanted to do. We understood what needed to be accomplished along the way, and we orchestrated this entire funnel in a way where our upsells became very painful to say no. If you bought the book, if you were sold on the idea that like, hey, I want to accomplish this. This is what I want. And I'm ready to take action. I'm ready to take out my credit card and buy a product and that's going to give me the system and it's going to give me the solution. Well, then that person then meets upsell number one. And it's like, in order for you to succeed here, you can't succeed without this upsell. And the person goes, yeah, you're right. I cannot succeed without it. So they just bought something. They bought into the journey. So now the upsells, each and every upsell becomes very painful to say no, because if they say no to any one of these upsells, they're essentially shortchanging themselves. They're shortchanging their goal. They're essentially admitting that I'm not taking this seriously. I'm not committing to this journey, because if I was, then I wouldn't leave any room for failure on the table. So each one of these upsells then became impossible to say no to or painful to say no to. And as a result, the upsell conversion rates on each one of these things was extremely high. And this is a very different style of strategic approach, rather, to mapping out sales funnels than what everybody does. Because what everybody does is they put, 99% of their attention into creating a product that people will buy on the front end, and then they just throw stuff against the wall. They have no idea what they should sell on the back end, and they just start lumping things together, and then their conversion rates are terrible because there's no pain associated with saying no to their upsells. It's just a mishmash of ideas thrown together, but it doesn't add up logically in the person's head. They don't say, hey, I need this in order to succeed on my journey to the end result. So each and every one of your upsells needs to be a key strategic necessity for accomplishing the goal that your customer is ultimately looking to accomplish. And if that's not in place, then it's very easy to say no to your upsells. And believe me, most people will.
It's incredibly powerful. And I know you go into a lot more detail beginning on page 178 within the book Monetization. But I think the tactic is absolutely critical to appreciate. Most people find that they cannot think of what they should offer for somebody for $1,000 or $5,000, and they're racking their brain and they're like, what can I deliver for $1,000? And what you've done is completely turn around that conversation and instead stop thinking about what you're going to offer for $5,000. Instead, start thinking about what the customer's end experience, what they're looking for, what they're looking to accomplish, how do they want to live their lives, how do they want to feel about themselves, what is the story that this person wants to think about themselves, what is the story that this person wants others to think about them, and then think about where they are. And the more you think about the doors that they need to pass through on the journey from who they are to who they want to become, and that journey and that discussion and those conversations are where the secrets are, where all of these answers lie. And that is the conversation to have in the conference room that will completely transform your business and help you double, triple, 5x what you're doing today. I think being able to double the revenue in your business over the next 12 months is absolutely possible. I've seen it many times. Have had it happen with clients. It doesn't start with a tactic of how do I increase conversion here? How do I create onboarding that some percentage of customers don't quit? How do I? It always starts with what is the journey? What is the story that the customer is telling themselves about themselves now? How do they feel they're perceived about those around them? What does that make them feel like? What concerns do they have? Where do they want to go? And making your product and process the deliverance of that journey accelerated, new, faster, never been before seen. That journey is the secret. And if you are not having those conversations, then you're really just stuck where you are.
The real key to this is to understand your customer and what it is that they're looking for. I did some research in the wedding niche. I was in the keto niche, but I was targeting women that were about to get married. I quickly realized that the majority of women who are getting married care little for the day itself. They only want the pictures. It's all about the pictures. The end result for them is not the guy and it's not the day. It's actually the pictures. If you're a wedding planner, how valuable is that kind of intel to you? One of the best stories I ever heard, and the minute I heard it, I loved it so much. And it was Dan Kennedy. He talked about the guys with the hearing aids. Everybody in the hearing aid space, advertising was, put in our hearing aid, you'll be able to hear the rustle of the leaves in the wind, and you'll be able to hear the birds chirping, and this, that, and the other. And that's where all the marketers were at. They were all thinking that these guys wanted to be able to hear the wind. They wanted to be able to hear the birds, the whole lot. And actually, Dan went and did his research, and what he found out was the number one reason why men buy hearing aids is because they don't want to go to a nursing home. They don't want to be considered insane because they can't hear anything that's being said. Like, how are you, Dad? Like, yeah, the sky is blue, because he didn't hear it properly. So he answered because he was assuming you said something, but then he assumed wrong because he can't hear. And then all of his family members are like, okay, time to put Dad in a nursing home. What a man who's buying a hearing aid ultimately wants is not end up in a nursing home. And I thought that was such a powerful active of insight that you need to have. Again, this brings up just a whole other topic. So many business owners just really don't understand their customers in any way, form, shape, or size. They just assume, they look at their competitors and they're like, their competitors are saying this, so we must say the same thing as well. But the reality is that's the blind leading the blind. Very few people have taken the time, the energy, the effort to really speak to their customers, to really get on the phone, to talk to them, to get into an environment where they can really understand who they are. There's a great copywriter copywriter out there who made my business a tremendous amount of money over the years. Her name is Carleen Anglade Cole. Genius, brilliant copywriter. And she used to essentially like go around to her neighborhood and like knock on people's doors and ask them to come round to her house. And she would have these like little get-togethers. She would like give everybody, like coffee and biscuits and whatever. And she would just sit down because she was talking to selling health supplements to people of a certain age. So she would call around to her community and like get everybody to come around to the house. And she would just ask them tons and tons and tons of questions. Who does that? Nobody does that. Very few people. I remember Gary Halbert telling me that he was in the day trading niche. He went to day trading school. Like he got up off his rear end and he went to day trading school. How many people have done that in the day trading niche? I would guess very few. I remember when I was working with him, he made me get on the phone with 100 buyers of a specific product and talk to them and not get off the phone until they hung up. I was given just like dozens of questions to ask. And then when that was done, I was put on the phone with 100 people that didn't buy. And again, why didn't you buy? I was asked all of these questions and until I was hunted off the phone. And that is a transformational experience. That's a very, very profound, you get your entire perception of everything in terms of who you're communicating to and how you should communicate with them and what you should say to them and how you should say to them and what you should offer them, will be transformed from doing that.
It's much easier to borrow a bunch of money and invest a lot of cash into slick advertising that looks great and that to some extent works, but that is very short lived. And don't be envious of somebody that's out there that looks like that's all slick. It's much easier. And what you're describing is my secret weapon for the last decade. I've got clients that are like, I got all this churn. I've got subscribers that are quitting, or maybe they're doing well and they want to figure out how to create a back-end product, but they put so much in the front end subscription, they don't have any idea what they could offer on a back end for a $5,000 per year subscription or what have you. Every time we just study the customer and figure out where they are or where they want to go. That is where these answers are. And if you are struggling in your business and you're trying to look at your ads, you're trying to look at your conversion, you're trying to look at your lead magnets, I would love to take over your business and focus on only the back end with the customers that you've already got and do some pretty simple marketing to them for something that unlocks what they came to you to begin with. And all because of some simple research. You already got a list of buyers. You also have a list of non-buyers. You could do the research that Caleb is describing, do the hard work, and you probably even have some people on your team you can get to do that for you. Although I would suggest that you'll learn a lot by doing that labor yourself. And by having those conversations, doing that work, in a week, you will be a very different person. Just a week. And a month of this, and you are going to be so transformed and your business is going to be in a different place 12 months from now that you have no idea what is possible by simply diving in to the customers and buyers that you already have.
Yeah, it's where the money is. What I have grown to appreciate a lot throughout the years is just how powerful the fundamentals are and how few people really have the fundamentals down. An intermediate marketer with great fundamentals will outperform a real savvy cat who doesn't have them. A lot of the times guys are just kind of knocking each other off and using tactics, and they're so tactic orientated. And you can do well with tactics, but you can't sustain or generate really great conversion rates and really build a massive, sustainable, high profit business unless you're just so well versed in the fundamentals and thoroughly taking the time to understand who your customer is. That was one of Halbert's real fortes. He was able to get into a niche and in a very short period of time really understand who that person was, exactly what it is that they were looking for, and what he needed to say in order to get those people to buy. And it's a very under talked about and underappreciated skill of his, but you can do it via the strategies that we've just shared here today. But it's so important, such a fundamental requirement for success in this business. And in the same way that whoever can pay the most to acquire a customer wins, whoever knows the customer most wins as well.
That's a awesome point to leave it at, and absolutely brilliant discussion. What I find too is that you really discover how intermediate your copywriting skills are when you fully grasp the
Yeah,
fundamentals.
so true. So
It's
true.
real. You really discover how pedestrian it was. Great copy you thought was just absolutely brilliant, and maybe it even crushed it. When you now go the next level, you really discover, like, oh, kind of missed it. I got a little lucky there.
It's a night and day difference. Yeah, it's a night and day difference. If you really take the time to understand people and then you look back at the copy that you wrote pre that, it'll be a night and day difference. You'll clearly understand. It'll be just black and white in front of your face how you've missed the mark.
If there was anything valuable that you discovered on today's episode, give this show a like. And if you're not yet subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Also, if you want more monetization secrets in order to grow your business, hop on down to monetizationresearch.com and subscribe to the email newsletter, Monetization Daily, that will give you a absolute surge of ongoing monetization tactics for your business. And that's at monetizationresearch.com. And if you haven't grabbed a copy of the book Monetization, you absolutely want it right now, and grab your copy right away. And if you have questions, and also all those brides out there who are angry at Caleb for saying that all brides want are the photographs, I'm going to give you his Skype address momentarily.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you can reach out to him, or in the meantime,
As
post your
many of you
comments
as
or
you like.
questions in the chat.
Good stuff. Great chat, Rob.
I absolutely loved it. Thank you, sir.
God bless.